Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Between the Stacks. Today we have a very special episode for you. We are talking about, if you haven't guessed it, BTS, worldwide phenomenon that's happening these days. You know, they're coming out of South Korea, so this is basically K-pop. So if you're not familiar with K-pop, this is going to be something very new for you.
Yes.
So this is something that was very new for you. You've never really heard of K-pop before, am I correct?
Yes. Well, I had heard of it. You know, I probably know more people who listen to K-pop than listen to American pop. But I myself was not among that group. So this was my first dive into any kind of Korean pop music. And I enjoyed it. It was wonderful. We're going to break it down here, I'm sure, and get into what we each liked about the new album. I also kind of did a dive into just BTS beforehand to get familiar with the different members, some of their different styles, and then so that I didn't go in completely blind. But it was relatively blind going into this, what I was about to experience.
It's really tough to get to know an artist when you're getting to know them 7 years down their roadmap. So I had put together a playlist for you just to kind of introduce you to their solos and some of their group stuff and some of their, because the dancing is a big part of it.
Yes.
And just overall the group itself. So you didn't go in totally blind, but there's so much more because BTS, since they debuted in 2013, has not stopped. I mean, this has been 7 years of them continuously putting out many albums, EPs, albums, and just bombarding the world with their music. So, a little bit of information for you guys about BTS. It's a 7-member group from South Korea, all men. And they've got big numbers. So if we go by the numbers, they've broken significant records. Like, it's just amazing some of the things that they've done. So in 2018, they broke the 24-hour viewing record on YouTube with 45 million views for Idol. And then they came back in 2019 and just demolished that record with Boy in Love with 74.6 million views.
In 24 hours.
In 24 hours. They're the first group to be nominated and to perform on American Music Award shows. They make so much money that they could be considered a mid-sized company in Korea. So they make about $4.6 billion annually, which is about on par with Samsung, Hyundai, and Kia. I mean, and they're a boy group. I mean, it's ridiculous the kind of, money that they make, the kind of social media impact that they have, where they basically have more than 1 million social media mentions per day.
Wow.
Every day. And right now, since they're in their promotion period for their new album, those mentions go through the roof. So, the ARMY fandom is what they call their fandom, consists of 48 million people worldwide, which, if we put that into perspective, would be 48 armies. So they could mobilize 48 armies and just take over the world, which actually they have taken over the music scene pretty significantly. So now that you've heard a little bit about BTS and you've heard their music, what things did you take away from the first initial playlist that you liked?
Well, I find it interesting because a lot of the music I listen to is either artists at the end of their career or artists who have already passed away. I listen to a lot of classic rock and classic Americana, folk music. So it was interesting for me to kind of dive into a band that is still very much contemporary and active. And is, has grown in the social media era of music, because for them already being around for 7 years, there is so much more material and information out there. So you gave me this playlist of songs to listen to, and it's like, where do I begin? I mean, you hit the first video, and then it's like, you have these, the color-coded words for the translations, and it's like, do I even look at the translations right now? Do I just sit here and listen to it and take in the song first and then go back and see what the lyrics are about? So it was interesting kind of just diving in. I also don't listen to a ton of foreign language music or foreign music, so I found it, surprising that, some songs, or many songs, will have English or will have another language besides Korean. So, and I found that very interesting for that. I thought it was strictly going to be Korean music. So that was a surprise there alone, was how they'll just go in the middle of a line between Korean and English. It's just part of that style of music. And I don't know if that's common for all K-pop or
It
if
is very common. They do intermix a lot of English, sometimes Spanish even, and French pops up every now and then. I know BTS has tried to incorporate several languages, not just English. So yeah, it is very common for that genre.
Okay. Another thing I found, there were a couple songs early on that I really gravitated towards. First Love was the first one that I immediately after hearing it went back and played it again. I thought it was really catchy.
Yeah.
Really catchy. There was some really cool alliteration that you get in the Korean language that you don't get as much in English, especially American-based English, where it's like Geary or something, and it's just like when you have the music drop. I found that song in particular and a couple other ones very cinematic in how they're arranged, where it's not like a lot of the kind of structured pop music that you get on the American music market, where it takes its time and then just keeps building to this really big climax in some of the songs. That one in particular, though, First Love, was probably the one I went back to the most. There were a couple other songs that would remind me of something from like some other piece of music, ever so slightly. There's one song where it brought up feelings and sounds that I heard with like Pink Floyd's Eclipse. And Dark Side of the Moon album. So occasionally having just this audio engineer background that I have, if something struck me as familiar to something else, I always try to shy away from being like, oh, they got it from there, but more like maybe they that was one of their influences, or maybe an engineer's just like, hey, this would be a cool thing to try, and and it's stuck. Sometimes an engineer will go into a mix knowing exactly what they want.
Right.
Other times, and I gotta believe that a lot of the times with BTS's stuff, that it is more they have an idea early on, and then it's simply finding all the pieces you need to build that overall.
They do have they do map out a lot of their things, like behind us we have the Love Yourself albums, and they basically progressed and they had different sounds, but overarching there was this whole plan of what they had. And then they came out recently, first they came out with Map of the Soul Persona, and now they're following it up with Map of the Soul 7. And every time, one of their albums comes out, I'm always eager and anticipate what they're going to do, because they love to push musical boundaries. With Map of the Soul 7 coming out, it was very different from a lot of their earlier albums. Right off the bat, I was like, wow, this is different. When they dropped Shadow, which was, the intro with Suga, and I was like, whoa, where is this coming from? And then they came out and released Black Swan, and I was like, oh my God, this is completely different than Shadow. And then a few days later, they released the outro, which was Ego, and that was completely different. And I was like, wow, this spectrum of music is shifting so much, but at the same time, the whole album is cohesive, you know?
I'm very surprised by how well it holds together.
Yeah.
Because I'm like looking down at like the spec sheets and the listing of the engineers and the producers, and it's like it's all over the place. Like the number of people who have, had some sort of part to play in developing each song or writing each song, and then the number of different producers they have, it's really staggering. I know that's more common for pop music than other styles of music, but it just blows my mind that, it's an 18-song album. How many of the songs are new and not from Persona?
The first 6 are from Persona.
And then the rest,
it rolls into the new album, which it starts with Shadow.
Like that they could do all those songs and get them to hold so well. I also found that, I think by the third new song by Filter, I was like, this album is arranged really, really well and stuff, because it's not getting stale, it's not getting boring, it's keeping me interested song to song, and I really
that guitar slide in Filter is just like, I keep listening to it, and like that, it's almost got that Spanish guitar slide feel, and you're just like, wow. And Jimin's vocals are always, they're so, I don't know how to describe it. They have this like almost tenderness to them, and then he has these like really high notes, and I know he doesn't do that as much in this album, but he has this vocal range that I really love. I agree with you. I think the arrangement of the album was well done. It's got a lot more producers than I've seen in the past. Like in their earlier albums, a lot of the stuff that they were originally producing was them. It was just RM, Suga, J-Hope arranging lyrics, Bang PD doing the producing. And what are your favorite picks from this album so far?
So besides Filter, I really like just the intro song, Intro Persona, which I know came out about a year ago, and then they attached it onto this whole album. But I really like the kind of rock feel of that song. That's an RM influenced or bass song, RM singing the lead, and I just it right away you're just in that intensity of the music, and then the whole album just runs with it. Filter was the one where I'm like, really started paying attention to not just the songs individually, but the overall structure of the album, and then the my 2 other big ones were UGG. Which had, I couldn't remember the name of it at first. I listened to it, I took it in, and then I kept listening to the rest of the album. I'm like, shoot, what was that one song? Because there were several things. The bass, the distorted kind of megaphone vocals they do in the background, the spacing and the pauses and the lyrics I really liked. And then towards like the later half of the song, the whoop echoes in the background where it's like, whoop, whoop, and I'm like, this one's happening.
It really gets you.
Yeah, it was it was a lot to take in on just the first listen, and it's like as soon as I was done with the album, it was like, all right, we're going back to that one. And then the last one that was really hit me was Inner Child, which is one of V's, and that one probably very similar to First Love. I found very cinematic in its arrangement, the way it builds on itself towards the second half of the song, the use of strings as part of the arrangement really kind of made that one a standout. And I think I find that I gravitate more towards the individual or the like duos or the triplet songs than the overall groups. Part of that is I'm not as familiar with like their live performances where the group dynamic really comes in, but then also just watching some of their live performances, when you do listen to some of those songs like On, or some of the other group collaboration songs, everybody still gets their moment to shine.
Yeah.
It's not like, it's not like a rock band. He's playing bass, he's playing drums. There's your lead singer, he's in the spotlight. Everybody gets their moment where not only do they get, to have a few lyrics or something, but they're doing the lyrics that mean something to them. They're doing if it's, one of the rappers, they're typically rapping the lyrics. They're doing what they do best and stuff, and everybody gets their moment to do what they have really worked hard to master and to share with people. So it's really neat, even within a single song, to see each person get their moment.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one. Earlier in their career, it was a little more off balance, where there was typically the vocalists had more time on stage when they were doing like their group performances. So they had way more lines, you know. But then the balance started to shift, where we had the rap line and the vocal line intermixing a lot more, and the songs dynamically changed, where, you know, it was more balanced, where it wasn't just like half the song somebody was rapping and then the other half was just like the vocalists were just doing backup. But I've always loved that the fact that they've been able to not only do their group performances but also do their solo performances, and also do their breakouts, where they do like the vocal line will have like a song, or the rap line, which I absolutely love the rap line songs. Honestly, like all the ciphers have always been my favorite, and then they came out with I think probably my favorite song of all time with the rap line has been Tear. That song just is so impactful, and it's just like the way that they just kind of overlap and shift their rap. It just really, really, I absolutely love the arrangement of that song. And then the vocal line has always done like some really spectacular songs. And I think when The Truth Untold, which was a collaboration with Steve Aoki, came out, I listened to it like in the middle of the night, like when it first came out. Like I'm all half asleep, I'm getting up, and I'm like, I gotta listen to this because they just, you know, it just came out. I'm like, you know, I'm waking up trying to listen to this new song. And I think it's the first time that a song brought me to tears, where I was just like so in like the moment, and my emotions just like I couldn't stand it. Like their vocals were just like so well done, and V's voice in that just slays me. And then Jungkook comes in, and he's got this voice that has such range, and he just lets that voice go out, and it sounds amazing. And yeah, I think that was probably one of the songs that just that was one of the first songs that's ever brought me to tears, just from hearing the voices. But with this album, I think for me, it's more emotional versus the music, because, you know, I've been following this group for like 4.5, almost 5 years now, and I've watched them go through their highs and their lows, and I've watched them break down on stage, and, you know, just overall the ride that they've been through in these years. So this album for me feels very personal. Out of it, like Louder Than Bombs hits me hard. Like that song was just like, wow, the lyrics just get to me, and the vocals and the way that it's arranged. I really love that song. And then We Are Bulletproof, The Eternal, that's just like army chant right there. Like, that song is going to be the anthem for Army for this year, because that's really like, you know, it kind of goes, it flips from, you know, We Are Bulletproof that came out in is it 2013 or 2014. In one of their earliest albums, they released We Are Bulletproof, and this is like completely different. You know, the original We Are Bulletproof is like this hard, edgy rap song with, you know, hip hop and like really intense song. And then you have We're Bulletproof Eternal, that's like really soft, and like the lyrics are just very tender, and I'm just like, wow, you know, they flipped the script. The same that with On, you know, they flipped from their early release of No, they switched it to On, and like they do in a lot of the songs, they do reference like some of their older material. So We Are Bulletproof The Eternal, just like it's for me, it's like army anthem. And then again, just I love the rap line songs.
Yeah.
They're just always so intense. They're so high energy. You know, it just, you know, I'm in my car and I'm just like, time to blast it. You know, that's going to be playing in my car all summer. You know, this album's probably going to be playing in my car all summer. Honestly, BTS is always playing in my car. And then also Ego for me. I really like Ego just because it harkens, again, it samples one of their early songs. So the intro to that song is actually a sample from one of their original songs. And then it just is J-Hope. I mean, it's his style, and I love it. It's this like hip hoppy, almost house feel to it, and I just love listening to him. You know, he released his own like mixtape where he did his own music, and he does this like really nice, smooth hip hop, and I love to listen to him. And he's probably the reason why I got into BTS because he's just such a great dancer. And then, you know, he grew as a rapper because he came in as a dancer, didn't come in as a rapper or a singer, and yet he can do both. Because I've seen him sing in earlier albums, and his voice is very good in singing. And then he has developed his rap style following the lead of both Suga and RM, who were already artists in the rap scene, who took a lot of flack when they joined BTS, honestly. And that song, I think, is very... It's a social commentary, really. You know, I mean, they're talking about, you know, people that go online or hiding behind anonymity, I should say, and, you know, spewing all this negativity out into the world. And I think that, you know, even though they are really loved in the world, you know, they have a huge fan base, that doesn't mean that they don't have people that actually really hate their music. I like that they sometimes shed light on situations that other artists kind of shy away from. You know, they've shed light on things like depression, on commercialism, on, you know, just sometimes being a follower. Like one of their earlier songs, Spinebreaker, like talks about how because you want to be in the trend that you're always asking your parents for money to buy the, you know, latest, greatest, but you never see what your parents have to go through to get that money. So it's all these like social commentaries that they love to shed light on. And I think that's really important for artists that are at such a level, you know, that they don't just, you know, oh, hey, we're just going to make music, that they make music that, one, has a positive message, but two, sometimes sheds light on situations that happen in the world. After you've listened to this, do you think, is there someone's voice that like really stood out to you?
I mean, it's hard because like I'm still getting to the point where I'm learning each of them, what each of them sounds like. I'd say for me, the ones who stood out the most would probably be Suga, Jimin, and V. I think were the ones I responded the most to on the first couple goes. But I mean, I'm definitely going to be having this playing for a while.
Well, that was my second question.
Yes,
was,
I mean,
do you think that you'll go back and listen to some other stuff?
I do. I thoroughly enjoyed diving into this, and I definitely want to see what else is out there. Will I be a K-pop
fanatic? Probably
fanatic
not.
army, BTS army? I don't know. It's so different from what most of my playlists are. But again, there are those there are those like little avenues that connect to what I'm already listening to, whether it's the the intimate lyrics that they're singing and the very kind of open way they sing about the topics, to kind of just the way the songs are arranged. Some of those songs, like I still hear them in my head right now, and I've only listened to them a couple times, and it's like,
yeah, On has been in my head like a lot because one, I've been listening to the album almost constantly, but On really stands out because of the marching band. Yes. I don't know why, marching bands are something that is very American, and it is something that we are used to. You go to like the stadiums and you hear the marching bands, or you go to a parade and then the marching band is what gets the crowd going. And to hear it in the background of On and how they arranged it and how they mixed it down and the vocals in the background, it's just, I can't get it out of my head. I'm just like, oh my God, this sounds amazing. So one of the things that is kind of a big year for BTS this year is that, in South Korea they do mandatory military service. And one of the members, Jin, who is the oldest member in the group, is up for his military service. Like by the end of this year, they should be announcing when he goes to the military. So this is going to be a very emotional year for like all the fans because, they haven't really clearly stated what the plan is for the future, because one vocalist being away, you think it's not going to make a big difference, but it does.
Yeah.
And then if you start taking away some of the rap line, because then after that, like RM, Sugar are also like, right after that, and then J-Hope, and then what is going to happen to the group? Honestly, I think the best case scenario, and I hope that's what happens, is that they all go at once. Like everybody just goes at once. They do their 18 months and they do a big comeback. And I think they would probably outsell everything that they previously did and break every single record out there if they did that. But if they do have to do this like hopping and skipping where like one member's got to go and then the next member goes the next year and then all of a sudden there's 3 members missing, that's going to be really, really tough. And, there's some K-pop groups that never come back after military service. So hopefully, they will, survive this military service hiatus that they have to go on. It's kind of tough for artists to overcome that. So I'm hoping that they will just all go at once and then we come back with a big comeback. And also I'd like to mention that, every month here at the library, we do host a K-pop meetup for teens from 6th grade to 12th grade. So if you are in that area, we do it like the 2nd or 3rd Wednesday of every month. You can register for it. We do everything from crafts to the random dance challenge to games, and just listen to music, and just really kind of fangirl for an hour. Lastly, I want to say to everyone, thank you for tuning in. But what's on our agenda for next month? Because you're picking it.
So for next month, Adriana and I are going to be sharing 3 of our biggest influences. So it could be an artist, could be a work of art, could be a musical album or a movie, a feature film, documentary. We're going to be sharing 3 of our biggest influences on our creative endeavors and why we kind of pursued the creative arts
that we did.
Yeah,
it's going to be tough because, oh man, it's going to be really tough.
I've got
it down.
I've got 2. It's the 3rd one. It's like, all right, which one rounds out the list?
For me, it's really tough because I came from a film and video background. So choosing, I know I'm going to have to choose a movie, and there's music, and that's a tough challenge too. So I think I have 1, but the other 2 are going to be super challenging for me to come up with.
Yeah, for me, it's kind of like, because I'm a musician and songwriter and I have my guitar just over in my bedroom, for me, I'll just be watching a film or something and then not even 30 minutes in this 2-hour-long film, pause, go grab the guitar. I have to play the guitar.
Yeah.
And so there's been several, movies and artists in my life that just do that to me, and it's like I can't not touch a guitar today, or I get to the venue and it's like, all right, we're going to try to make them sound this good today. So
all right, so we're going to wrap it up here. I do have a surprise for you, which I will not include in the original video, but probably put in a smattering of it at the end. So we want to say goodbye for this time, and we'll be back next month talking about our favorite artists.